It started as an ordinary afternoon for Pauletta Washington, the elegant, soft-spoken wife of Hollywood legend Denzel Washington. She had decided to stop by one of the city's most exclusive luxury car dealerships, a place where gleaming machines worth more than most homes sat under showroom lights like jewels in a glass case. She had the time, the resources, and the intent to finally add a new vehicle to her personal collection. What she did not have, though she never should have needed, was proof to anyone that she belonged there. And yet, within minutes of stepping inside, it became clear that the dealership's staff had already decided she didn't. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. It began subtly, as these things often do. A young sales associate glanced her up and down, lingering far too long on her casual yet immaculate outfit, designer, but understated. His smile was thin, his tone syrupy, as though speaking to someone browsing far above their means. She requested to see the latest flagship model, a sleek new luxury coupe whose price tag could easily buy a modest home in the suburbs. The associate's reply was a suggestion that she might want to start by looking at something more practical. That might have been the first red flag. But Pauletta, with her natural grace, brushed it off and repeated her request. That was when the real discomfort began. Two staff members, standing near the back office, seemed to be whispering and chuckling as their eyes darted toward her. She could feel it, those barely concealed glances, the smirks. Another employee, this one with the air of someone in charge, stepped forward and explained that certain models weren't available for casual viewing, without an appointment and some verification of interest. The words were wrapped in polite tones, but the meaning was obvious. They didn't believe she could afford the car. They weren't going to waste their time. It wasn't just about money. Pauletta knew that. She could read the undercurrent in their behavior, the kind of condescension steeped in quiet prejudice. It was about assumptions, about race, about class, about who was supposed to be inside that marble-floored showroom. These people didn't see her as the wife of one of the most respected and successful actors in the world, or as a woman with her own substantial accomplishments. They saw her as an intruder in their temple of wealth, and they didn't care to hide it. By the time she left, she felt more than just insulted. She felt the kind of sting that sits in your chest long after the moment has passed. It wasn't just personal. It was a reminder of how discrimination can still thrive in even the most polished corners of society, where public smiles mask private disdain. She went home without a car but with a story. A story she wasn't sure she wanted to tell, but one that wouldn't stay silent for long. When Denzel Washington heard what had happened, he didn't shout. He didn't storm around the house or slam his phone against the table. Those who know him best say that his calm is more dangerous than any outburst because it means he's really thinking about how to respond. And Denzel Washington, when he decides to respond, does not do so halfway. The very next day, without sending word ahead, he walked into that dealership. No entourage, no assistant, no PR team, just Denzel. The staff recognized him instantly, the air shifting in that electric way it does when a famous face walks into a room. Conversations stopped. The same sales associate who had patronized Pauletta appeared suddenly eager, rushing forward with the enthusiasm of someone smelling a big commission. But Denzel's expression didn't waver. He asked for the manager, and when the manager arrived, Denzel didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He simply told them exactly what had happened to his wife. Word for word. Every condescending remark, every whispered laugh, every barrier they put up. His voice was calm, steady, and sharp as glass. He asked a single, pointed question. Did they think it was acceptable to treat anyone this way in their establishment? The manager stammered. Apologies were offered, but they felt rehearsed. That was when Denzel's tone shifted. Not louder, but heavier. He laid out, in precise detail, why this wasn't just an unfortunate misunderstanding. It was systemic bias. It was racial profiling, disguised under layers of policy and procedure. And then he did something that changed the entire atmosphere. He pulled out physical proof. Somehow, Denzel had gotten his hands on leaked internal communications, emails and chat logs between staff members, Where his wife's visit was discussed in crude, racially tinged terms, there it was in black and white. The prejudice they thought would stay behind closed doors. The color drained from the faces in that showroom. Within hours, the story was everywhere. Media outlets picked it up, fans were outraged, and social media turned into a wildfire of criticism against the dealership. Other customers, some celebrities, some powerful figures, began to share their own stories of being profiled there. A storm was brewing, and Denzel had lit the match. But he didn't stop there. For Denzel, it wasn't about just winning an apology. It was about making sure this didn't happen again to anyone. He demanded, publicly, that the dealership overhaul its policies. Mandatory bias training for staff. Transparent procedures for customer interactions. A commitment to diversity in hiring, not just at the entry level but in management. And because he knows how easily such promises fade once the headlines do, he made it clear that he would be following up, and that he expected results. The dealership, facing boycotts and the loss of lucrative partnerships, had no choice but to comply. They issued a formal public apology, not just to Paletta, but to anyone who had ever experienced similar treatment there. Still, for many, words weren't enough. Actions would be the real test. While the dealership scrambled, Denzel began working on something bigger. He announced the launch of a mentorship and funding program aimed at supporting Black entrepreneurs in the luxury automotive industry. It wasn't just about buying cars, it was about owning dealerships, becoming decision-makers, and changing the culture from the top down. If the industry wouldn't open its doors willingly, he would help build new ones. In the weeks that followed, his initiative attracted major attention. Other celebrities, athletes, and business leaders offered to contribute funding and mentorship. The story had started with humiliation, but it was turning into a movement. People who had quietly accepted discrimination in upscale spaces began speaking out. Customers demanded better treatment, not just in car dealerships but in all luxury markets. The irony? The very dealership that had humiliated Paletta began losing so much high-profile business that they publicly sought to sponsor Denzel's program. He declined, politely, but firmly. His point was made: they could keep their sponsorship money. Change wasn't for sale. Denzel's handling of the incident became a lesson in how to fight back without losing control, how to turn personal pain into public progress. He showed that dignity and strategy can be more powerful than rage alone. And for many, that was the most inspiring part. You might think this is the end of the story, but it isn't. Because the question lingers: how many other luxury spaces operate this way without ever being exposed? How many people leave quietly, never telling their story, because they think no one will believe them or care? The truth is, we've all walked into places where we were silently judged before we opened our mouths. Maybe it wasn't about race. Maybe it was about how we dressed, where we parked, what we drove. Sometimes those glances are harmless. Sometimes they cut deep. The difference is whether we decide to accept them or challenge them. Denzel challenged them. And by doing so, he gave everyone watching permission to do the same in their own lives. So maybe the next time you're in a situation where someone doubts your worth before they even know your name, you'll remember this story. Maybe you'll remember that calm can be a weapon. Proof can be a shield, and action can be the blow that changes everything. And maybe, just maybe, you'll be the one to turn a moment of insult into a spark for change. Now it's your turn. Have you ever faced that kind of quiet prejudice? The kind that hides under fake smiles and polite tones? What did you do about it? Or what will you do next time? Share your story, speak your truth, because you never know who needs to hear it to find the courage to fight back.